Great. So welcome to another insurance podcast. It says here where we explore what makes great insurance brands tick, which is obviously directly from AI, isn't it? Anyway, I'm delighted
you did your
today.
homework.
I did, yeah. I'm delighted today to be joined by Georgina Peters-Venzano of Beazley, Chief Marketing Officer, and definitely one of the most distinctive brands in insurance at the moment. Okay, we can agree on that, can't we?
Okay, thanks.
So what we'll be talking about today, insurance brands, brand evolution, how you develop a brand, how, and I believe this, Beazley keeps pushing the boundaries, I think, on the creative side of things in insurance, in an industry that really is often seen as really conservative. And I think we've both lived in it for a while. So
We have.
Again, it's that. So let's start, perhaps, Georgina, first of all, welcome. Start with your story. I'd like to go back a bit I'd like to ask people about their early years, partly because somebody asked me in a podcast, and I thought that's a really good question, actually, because I haven't thought about it for a while. As early as you like. So I was kind of like, what did you want to be when you grew up? And I'm sure you didn't want to be in insurance.
Finally, an insurance marketeer, but no, genuinely, I had 3 jobs that I really wanted. The first was a fighter pilot.
Yeah.
And long before the onset of like real Google, where you just Googled everything, I was eventually told when I became short-sighted that you couldn't be a fighter pilot.
Yes.
So then I decided I want to be a barrister. And so I went to the Inns of Court. I saw how they wore their wigs, and I thought, I really don't like that. And then I grew up under Maggie. So I wanted to be the second female prime minister.
Really?
Yep. Those are my career choices. All whilst I was up to 18.
Those are hugely kind of ambitious things, aren't they?
Exactly. They are quite ambitious.
They
but
really
they were
are.
very, genuinely, if you ask my whole family, what is it she wanted to be? It was very clear that that's what I wanted.
It's really interesting. Yeah, it's great. Yeah. So how did you get into the world of insurance then after all
That was my fourth, actually, obviously.
Was it? Right,
no.
Okay, yeah.
How did I get into insurance? It was all by accident, actually, which I think is often the story of most people, not by design. We need a Wolf of Fenchurch Street, quite frankly, if we're going to get people into insurance. But as an aside, it was genuinely, I was looking for realistically my first proper job. I was working at Hello magazine, and I managed to call myself a journalist, but really I just made tea for people like Bruno Brooks and stuff like that. So I really quite enjoyed my time there. And then 9/11 happened, and that's when the market, if anyone was around there, it sort of closed off for, young professionals, people just out of university. There wasn't much around. So I was looking for a job that played to my strengths of sort of writing, that sort of stuff. And I ended up at Axco. And I worked with them for a very short amount of time. And then I got an opportunity to work for Chubb in marketing, which I thought would be quite good. The other option was facilities for Deutsche Bank. It was an odd choice. I wasn't even sure what it meant.
So I
went for
the
Chubb.
right path.
Yeah, exactly. I worked in corporate comms at Chubb.
Great. So Chubb, as in the London market part of Chubb at the time. Yeah, before it.
The original Chubb.
Yeah, original Chubb before.
So
that was a very interesting business,
I'm a real Chubby, as they say.
Yeah, and brand was really massively important to Chubb, wasn't it? If it's grey, we pay.
Exactly.
I think it was. Great. So then you were at CNA Hardy for a while.
True.
We worked together there.
We did.
But
you've worked with everyone in insurance everywhere.
Yeah, but
all the time.
But it was kind of an interesting place, wasn't it?
It was,
good people and an interesting team. Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. And then time rolls on, and you join Beazley. I read the press one morning, and there it is, CMO of Beazley, which I thought at the time, I remember thinking, oh, that's a really big moment, and it's a fantastic opportunity.
Definitely.
And I thought, great, I'm glad someone who actually believes in brand is going to go there. So what was it kind of like when you joined, and when did you join?
Well, I think I've told anyone who'd listen, it was the week of lockdown, so 2020. It's not hard to forget that starting date. I was really quite intimidated, I'll be honest, about going to Beazley because of all the brands in the market. I think I was kind of bored of insurance by that point and wanted to go back to private equity. I wanted to go back to doing something else.
Yeah.
I felt that it was very slow to move, lots of good intentions, but a slow moving market, and it felt quite tiring.
Yeah.
And the opportunity arose with Beazley, and I thought, okay, fine, fine. If I was going to work for anybody in insurance, that's actually how I spoke about it. It would have been Beazley, because not only the reputation it had in the London market, definitely innovative, definitely the people that I met in different fields always seemed to have some sort of secret sauce or just be really quite open and engaging. So I thought, well, if there was a fast-paced, more innovative insurer, it would be this one.
Yeah.
And then when I got the job, I was like overwhelmed, amazed, excited, but then incredibly intimidated, because I thought these are the sharks of the insurance industry, and I'm not sure I'm really quite prepared for that.
Don't know what you're worried about. You wanted to be the Prime Minister.
I know. How times change. My ambition, exactly.
Came to the reality of it.
Yeah,
like
actually
all
having to
of
do
us.
that, I was like, damn it. But
gosh, yes. No, this is actually it at the moment.
Big moment, yeah.
And I mean, I'll just say for the record, I worked obviously with Beazley in the early days.
Yep.
I did a lot of work early on with them, so I'd kind of obviously followed them, but not just from a research perspective, but I kind of, just kind of knew a lot about how they'd thought and the original founders of the business. Yeah. And I guess my other thought was, like you, wow, it is quite a challenge, to move that again forward and keep it moving as a brand and a business, because it's a very dynamic business, isn't it?
It's very dynamic, but it is growing significantly. I think that's one of the big opportunities with a growing business, is naturally there's more maybe openness to change and doing things differently and learning, because it is, I think we've tripled in size in 5 years. That's substantial.
Yeah.
And you think, so there's always going to be that opportunity, because everyone's looking what it is that we can do to really deliver against these ambitious plans.
And it's a really good point, because these specialty businesses have grown enormously, haven't they, really? Even some of the ones recently set up have grown enormously.
Yeah,
I mean,
totally.
It's amazing, really. They've got something.
Definitely.
Lots of them really have got something. I'll just say that I think one of the first things I always remember about Beazley in the early days is they had a webcam.
Right.
That's
very modern, a webcam.
They had a webcam on the box at Lloyd's. Yeah. So, and the idea was that this is kind of how they thought. They said the webcam was so that they could kind of get people to queue. So it was a service thing, right? And then it never worked, because webcams back in the day never worked. So they said, okay, well, that webcam didn't work, but what we'll do now is we'll give the underwriters a little mirror ball that sits on their computer, with the idea that they'll see the broker coming from behind them.
I love it.
So they always had a kind of bit of humour, I think, in that brand early on.
Definitely.
And I think you've maintained that, and it's been maintained. Yeah. Not the whole time, I'd say, but definitely you've kind of picked that up. We'll come back to that. So you've done a lot of work, and we'll talk a bit about that. Where do you think the brand is today, and what have you, because you're now what, 5 years?
Well, nearly 6
in.
actually. I noticed on LinkedIn the other day.
Wow, it's gone quick.
It has. I think it's where it needs to be actually at the moment, but I think there are probably sort of 3 caveats to that. I think the first is brand is always evolving. So you ask me in a year's time, I'll probably give you the same answer. It has to really be true to self and to deliver against its goals and objectives. You need to be aligning that brand with your corporate strategy and making sure that it's real and it's authentic and all of that. So I do think it's where it needs to be, and where it's moved from is not significantly different to where it was actually. I think it was just responding to the environment and then picking up where potentially it got lost a little bit. And I think that happens as companies grow. As you look for different expertise to support that, you do need to have a look at it and think, well, from a brand perspective, is this actually living up? Because I think probably 5 years ago, there was lots of things around, EVPs, like employee value propositions, employer brands, and so you had all these sort of bits bolted onto companies.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to take a moment to take a holistic viewpoint of say, does that all make sense? Does that align with the corporate strategy? Is that pushing us forward? That's where it should be. So it should be where it is. And then in a few years' time, it will have evolved again.
And now you've said it, I think you're right. I think if I look back to that 5, 6, maybe 7, 8 years ago, there were lots of ideas knocking around, weren't they? But they were all very tactical. They were all kind of like, as you say, they kind of picked up on the latest fad or the latest thing. But none of them seemed very coherent or consistent, I suppose. I mean, even the identities of lots of the brands weren't very consistent. But nowadays, that's I mean, not just Beazley, but I think
But
that
others,
it is much more professional now, isn't it? In a sense.
In that point, if there's definitely a development and an educational journey companies have been on to the importance of brand. It's not about a tagline every year, a new look and feel every year.
No.
And, this is our latest thing. It's about actually, if you look at the greatest brands, the biggest brands, they retain Coca-Cola, Apple, they are exactly Nike, what you expect them to be. So I don't know why we kept changing it. I think we misunderstood campaign for brand in some shape or form and sort of used our brand as a campaign in insurance.
Yeah, and I think identity as well. I think that was it. And it was often, very, very focused on underwriting teams and that transactional side of the business in the past. I think that's fallen away quite a bit in my kind of what I see anyway.
Well, you see it more holistically, which I think is helpful.
Yeah, I think they were very much more underwriter driven. So those, there was an example of a place I did some work for, and they said, right, I don't care what your research says or the campaign is. We're going to do the boat race. There's no reason for doing the boat race.
No.
I fancy doing the boat race because I'm the head of underwriting. It's like that was kind of where we were, which was, an extension of kind of the corporate entertaining view of business in a sense. And I think that's moved on a lot. And we've seen spends increase, of course, in the market now. Of which you're part, but it is increasing, and there's many more professional marketing people in the insurance businesses, in specialty insurance. That matters. Just as an aside, do you look at competitors' marketing and what they're doing?
Yeah.
Does it bother you and bug you?
I'm not sure it bugs me. I think sometimes it does.
I
won't say
that's really good.
No, it's often
just it's terrible.
Yeah, it frustrates me when I can either see two things. One, bad decision making, where they've been an opportunity has been given or misunderstood or misplaced. I won't name any because that's unfair. Or Frankensteining, where you can see that a great concept got ruined by either fear of being bold or I don't want to stand out too much or I just want to be like everyone else. And that's always a bit sad to watch. I love it when people do it well. I think it brings joy when you look at that stuff and think how well it's been done. Yeah. But clearly I look beyond insurance as well. Like I'm always looking at other people's stuff and stealing ideas, begging, borrowing, stealing, all that stuff.
Are there any campaigns you particularly like at the moment?
They're not any that I like. They're ones that will always sit with me because it's more about the theme. So I think John Lewis is always something that for me holds on to the emotion. Yeah. And I think the brand is all about emotion. And I think it's really important to look at those that capture emotion and think, how do I do that? I think humor is another one. So you look at different campaigns that offer humor. Now that is obviously subjective. What I find funny, you may not. But I think looking at those campaigns that own that sort of space, or I think Carlsberg for me was a brilliant campaign where it was all about, if only they did this. And it was always really quite funny. And you thought that was a really very clever way of being humorous without being necessarily silly. I think those are things. And ones that are things like authentic or recognized value. I think one that always will sit with me is M&S. I just think, M&S, it's not just food, it's M&S food. I think it's just a real statement and clarity of it's better.
Superiority.
So exactly. I think that's a brilliant campaign. So ones that really do that, they sit with you for a long time. And then you think, well, how do I take the same principles and drive that through what we're doing?
And those two principles in brand building are really important, aren't they? So humor, which is the kind of usually used as an emotional connector. So you go, oh, I just like it because I like it. I mean, it's got to deliver as well, of course. And the other is that superiority. We're actually better at something. Yeah. Now, I kind of think of Amazon a bit in that space, which is like, I know exactly what they do and why I buy. And I always use examples with teams that I work with in the market and say, well, what is it about? And I mean, eventually, it takes them a minute or two, but they go, because they're quick. And they always do it. Yeah. They always deliver right the next day.
You can get whatever you want.
Yeah.
Next day. Well, it's like ease, isn't it? Yeah.
I mean, that still amazes me.
I have a minor addiction.
So do I.
Yeah.
I do.
The moment they produced that app, my life was over on the phone.
It is quite an incredible business, but we're not talking about Amazon. But we, we learn. You say we learn from other brands. I think we should and could, and that's a great thought. So do you want to say a few words about authenticity and just
I think
get it out there, what it really means?
I talk about it a lot, but I think, whatever, don't copy other people. I don't think that's the point. I think beg, borrow, steal in that point is okay, but just copying, and you see that approach in marketing a lot where people copy and it doesn't land and it doesn't work, to your point, because the most important thing around brand is authenticity. And actually, therefore, you have license to do whatever you want if it's authentic and it's aligned with who you are as an organization.
Yeah.
And that is key, that a marketeer's role is to truly understand the organization, what it is that you're selling, to whom, where those people are, and how the business is aligned. What's the strategic vision for that business? And if you have all of that stuff wrapped up, then there's real clarity around your authenticity, and you will cut through whatever it is you're trying to do, and you will rise above everyone else because of that real authenticity around what you do.
So in Beazley, you're very much, you're kind of a people person, aren't you? I kind of see you like
I guess so. Yeah.
But is that, so in terms of when you learn and you're thinking about the brand, are you listening to the people? Are you listening to Adrian speak, or an underwriter speak, or an actuary, and say, look, that's kind of, you're translating it back to them?
Yeah, so I listen. Listening is a huge part of it. So I always think that another part is being curious. You've got to ask as well.
Yeah.
So listening to what people say, asking questions all the time is such a benefit, I think, to all of this. But just being clear and understanding, okay, that organization itself and what it is we should be saying within the market and who we really are. But it's all about listening and asking questions and then reflecting that back. This is what I hear. And I think it was probably a sort of segue into one of the reasons we did evolve the Beazley brand when I joined. There was a whole thing going on called COVID, which, is one thing we can talk about. But the other was very much, it was very lucky. I look retrospectively, maybe that's who I am as well. Looking back, thinking, what an easy way for me to understand the business is doing it through a screen, because everyone was in the same boat.
Yeah.
It was pretty terrifying at the beginning, but if people can share their culture, their values through a screen during that time, it's got to be authentic. So, but people kept saying the same thing. And, whether it was innovation, expertise, these sorts of things that we've heard before, but they all said and aligned around the same thing. And then I did desk research. So I started looking about, okay, so if we all think that we're innovative and we're experts and we're sort of leading the market, when I look at the way we show up, through our website, through our visual identity, through the content we're putting out, we are not showing up like that at all. We're showing up more like the everyman from the archetype, right? So more like the everyman. And therefore, that's okay, but this is a problem. So that was a really great moment to be able to say, well, you show up like this in person, and this is how you see yourself and the value that you create and how we're different. But the way that's translated when we talk to people is through a far more everyman lens.
Yeah.
And that actually is going to be a problem, because then you don't have an authentic brand. So where do you want to be? And then let's work on that.
And one of the things we did, first piece of marketing effectiveness work that we did was probably 7-8 years ago. And I think at the time I coined a word, cloaker, which meant that your marketing was targeted at both the broker and the client. And what the broker said is, broker said, most insurers do this, but it becomes just totally generic and cheesy. They used to use that word, and it was, I can remember we had Caroline Wagstaff, for example, on an expert group. She said, well, we're just not targeting these messages, but that you've changed that. I think that has changed a lot now. It's really clear what those messages are aimed at, and they work much better
when they're clear.
Yeah. So in terms of just going on to that, this whole cliche of insurance is a people business. I mean, it is, of course it is.
Yeah.
Lots of businesses are people businesses, but there's particular types of people in insurance, and there's a culture. How do you kind of deal with the smart people in, the clever people in the business? Because they're a particular type of clever people, aren't they? Some of them, very numerate, very kind of, some of them, I guess, quite technical and things. And how do you kind of manage those? And then there's other very creative, but I mean, I meet them all, and there's an interesting mix, isn't there, in these businesses? And how do you deal with those and get the authenticity out and then make them all feel they're part of that brand, I suppose?
I probably apply the 80-20 rule, and I also apply the path of least resistance rule for both of those things. However, I do, on a more serious note, I do think there is part of your role, if you are going to be focused on brand, is to be able to tell a good story. If you are a good communicator, you should be able to merge that story to suit the needs of those relevant audiences and find a way to make it connect with them.
Yeah.
And that 100% sits, I think, at the marketing team's door. Yep. So it's not, here's my one message internally, and just because you're an employee of this company, you must get it. It's about thinking, okay, well, look, if I, whether I'm a property underwriter, environmental underwriter, or an actuary, or actually within IT, you should be able to make this resonate for me and see the value that I have in contributing to this, because every single person there is responsible for our brand in some shape or form. And so I think that to me is the lesson, is genuinely path of least resistance. Don't expect to get everyone over the line, because that just isn't real in life anyway. 80-20 rule, that's success, that's happiness.
Yeah.
But take responsibility for making sure that your messages resonate with the right people. And if they don't blame them. Have another go.
Yeah, yeah. So do you think overall people like being in a business that's so branded, if you like, as like a Beazley business, compared with, I mean, you might have been in some that aren't quite as branded. Does it kind of make them more connected, engaged?
I would say
without
yes.
them knowing it, in a way.
But I think it all goes back to that full circle moment, because there are some companies which are incredibly, as you say, branded and they're very rigid, and the brand that they produce has to align with the values of the people. So I could work for another organization and find it really constraining having this sort of whole cloak of brand over it, because it didn't align with me as a person, as my values, and therefore it's not bringing out the best in me. So I do think that there has to be an alignment there where you feel comfortable, at home, valued within an organization, then you become proud of it. So, people want to wear the Beazley pin, or they want to wear the pink socks, or they want to wear, because they actually feel proud of, the organization, but what it stands for. There's a humanity behind it. What do we stand for?
Yeah, and I've certainly talked to Beazley people at various conferences and where there are stands and things. And they are connected to it. They kind of feel proud of it. Whereas you go to some other businesses where they kind of do quite random stands sometimes, with grass growing out of them and rockets and things, and you think, I don't really think their people understand that at all, So, I think this is quite an important question. It might be a bit challenging, but if you talk to a lot of brokers, and maybe a few years ago, it's perhaps evolving, as they kind of go, we don't really need an insurance brand. Why? We just need the capital. We just need the capacity and get them to write the risk, and we're good. Thank you very much. Has that changed now? I mean, how does it appear in your view to the policyholder? Where does that help you as a business in terms of growth and
I think
success?
It's the 80-20 rule again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So always start with the 80-20 rule.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's a whole group of people. It's not either or, right? So, we're also, some people will see Lloyd's as the brand, not the actual syndicate or the organization underneath that. And there are people on the smaller end of the business who they rely on their broker more than it is on the company that's providing the insurance to them. I do think that there's a massive amount of people in the middle who do care, and they do want to know what it stands for.
Right.
So I do think it is important that people recognize what it is that we stand for. It's very clear that we have a strong brand that is authentic, because a lot more customers are looking there, whether it's investors, whether it's stakeholders, whether it's employees. They're looking for all of this information as well. And it may not be the deciding factor, but it's a factor in the decision. And therefore, it's whether you're on this end of the scale or that end of the scale, it's going to be bigger or smaller depending on where you are. So to me, it makes a huge difference having real clarity, what it is, who we are, what we stand for, how we show up. And then that enables a swifter and easier decision-making process depending on where you are.
Which is very, because I think if you spoke to underwriters, they say it's, when a broker makes a decision, it's an incredibly complex, rational decision, and I'm the one who they chose, and then you kind of, but actually the reality in what you're saying is more the Les Binet kind of view, which we know in the marketing theory is actually the decisions are taken quite quickly.
But it's emotional. It's
emotional.
We all make emotional decisions and then rationalize them through language.
And memory, isn't it, as well? Because, brokers sit in the market in 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning, parceling the risks out. It's who they know, who they like, who they work with,
who's
who they
front
trust.
Of mind.
Who's front of mind, exactly. Those things kind of really work. So then back to your argument about, if you like, the collateral and the way how you turn up, those little things of the Beazley pink, the colour, everything else kind of works on that basis.
But I think it's like I see it as a flashcard.
Yeah.
So every time they are exposed to it somewhere,
Yeah.
If you do it right, it hits an emotion. And
Yes.
that emotion, I hope, is the positive.
Yeah.
I like them, or I want to work with them, or that experience was good, which then, shifts you up the line to being the one chosen for the business.
And that emotion can be quite weak, can't it, in a sense? It's like, I think sometimes when you talk to people, they go, well, I'm never persuaded, particularly, business people, I'm never persuaded by marketing or advertising and all that sort of thing. And yet we see, for example, you're the hardest working brand since 2023 in the market for three or 4 years running, right? Which is great. So we can see that brokers are influenced by this. We know that a broker who's aware of a brand is 7 times more likely to place business. So in other words, it does impact consideration. So we know this theoretically. But it could be a tiny trigger, couldn't it? In other words, tiny, really tiny. Yeah. And that's why people don't realise sometimes
no
it's
one wants
happening.
to admit it either, because we like to think there's an intellectual part of it, but in a weird way, it's like, well, no, of course I'm not. I make a rational decision.
Yeah. But it's like, how did that Mars bar appear in my shopping basket? I can't remember picking it up. Or, that sort of feel.
Does that happen a lot, Ben?
Just cream eggs for me, actually.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. I'm not big on chocolate, but cream eggs, yeah. So let's just talk a little bit about, marketing's a long game.
Yeah.
How does that kind of fit with the insurance world? Kind of the view generally is it's a bit short term, a bit transactional, cycles, all that stuff.
Yeah. So the truth is you can't have one without the other and be effective.
Yeah.
So you can market as much as you want, but without any sort of longer term brand building, that emotional connection, that reason for being, you will just be a flash in the pan. So we see that with things. I suppose the one that came to mind is things like fads and trends like Prime, the drink, not the Amazon Prime, right?
Yeah.
It's a moment in time. It's absolutely on about just pure sell and getting people sort of addicted to it in that instant, and then it's just gone. Where did it go? I mean, unbelievable.
Yeah.
If they'd wanted to be doing it, they would have built far more of a long-term play. What do we stand for? Why does it make difference? And do that as well. And I think it would be the same in insurance. Is you have to have the long-term play, what it means, what you stand up for. If you think, I mentioned Chubb at the beginning of this, then you sort of automatically had that sense of if it's grey, we'll pay.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be clear. That isn't the same Chubb as today.
No.
100%. But you're still sitting there in that long-term place. So, if it's grey, we'll pay. We still get that warm, cozy feeling thinking about Chubb. It was all about integrity, all of those things. Yeah. And you think, okay, so there in itself is value on the long-term play.
Yeah.
But you have to have something going on, churn, to be front of mind, to be going from awareness down to influence and target people. You have to get some behaviors coming through the door as well. So the balance is both at the same time to be here over time and build a legacy.
The other thing I think is important is this is leadership, isn't it? Mm-hmm. How leaders talk about the brand. And, in Chubb's, example, the Greenberg does talk very clearly about the brand as the North Star and claims as, that sort of thing. And I know I've heard Adrian Cox talk about, we look through the the windscreen, not the rear view mirror, which seems to match with the kind of risky business and the campaign. Yeah. Is that deliberate that you do that?
It's deliberate, but not contrived.
No.
Because I think it does go back to that whole point of authenticity. If everyone is scripting the CEO to say things to align with the positioning, it becomes a contrived and it lacks authenticity, all of that. Yeah. But if you've done the hard work at the beginning, those seem to naturally fall into place because you're encapsulating the spirit of something. Mm. And if that spirit's true and real, then it will manifest across those many channels in a very natural way.
I get it. And how do then, just in terms of, I'm really interested now that the days actually, and how with portfolio businesses, which is the latest, kind of catchphrase, isn't it? For everybody's got a portfolio business now. And how do the products, if you like, because I think one thing that's really interesting about Beazley is you use different language from quite a long time back around products. You didn't use the Lloyd's terminology for products. So you talked about, lawyers or solicitors or, instead of PI and things. how is that kind of operating now with things like cyber and different types of evolving risk? Is that really important within the brand, the whole language of the products and the...
Yeah, I do. I think there is it's difficult because the brand has changed.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of new people. And I think it is hard because there's also some market moves as well to try and align around making sure that it's the names of the languages and all those things sort of are the same, or they align with brokers, or are they going to be industry focused? So there's not as much independence as you might like.
No.
But I do think what's important is keeping it simple.
Yeah.
I think that is probably why we focus more, which is you don't need to trademark everything. You don't need to come up with a new name for everything. It almost is like Ron Seal, does exactly what it says on the tin. That would be a better approach to it, because that honestly will resonate more clearly with brokers and with clients than calling it something, right? Or a different name, trying to establish it as something different. It should be, this is the company, this is the brand. Those things mean that it stands for a certain thing. Yeah. But this is the product. It's cyber, or it's this, or it's that, rather than everything having its own identity.
Yeah, yeah. It's like crisis management, isn't it? Has become a phrase that brokers, I think, can't remember, maybe Gallagher or somebody kind of invented or coined it, but everywhere it's like PV or political risks or geopolitical. So you've got lots of different terminology for what is a really kind of important and distinctive product in the market. So you, at some point, you kind of got to settle, as you say, on something, haven't you, and agree.
Yeah, if you want, and it's not lots of new people coming in the market, and also trying to understand stuff. Why do we make it so complex?
Yeah, and I was just going to ask you about collaboration with brokers. That's really important, isn't it, in this? Because it seems like we need to kind of agree or lead out on things if we're going to have a language that people can understand.
I think so.
Good. Let's just talk just a little bit about the KPI, what you measure, just very briefly, because I've got to ask about that. I mean, I'm not really wanting to talk about research, but just obviously that's one aspect. But what other things, signals or data, I suppose, tells you that the marketing is working?
Lots, obviously. Where we can, we look at connectivity all the way through, from the obvious marketing metrics that you would look at, that you would manage, which I don't need to go through. But we do try and connect it up with our submission SQB, so we can actually see that short-termism, as you point out, I think is important. Yeah. We have an ability to look at that and connect the dots there as well, which I think helps people see the needle moving. We look at all the brand metrics. We obviously clearly look at your Insurindex as well, which is clearly important. But there's a huge amount of, I think, 2 or 3 things. You mentioned earlier on the human part. It's a people business. You do get that feedback. So people will, when they feel genuinely connected, we get emails from people who have either attended some, it could be a webinar, it could be an event, it could be something that is saying, this was incredible, or my wife or husband compel me to write to say thank you because this was something. And you think, well, you're really hitting it out the park when you're getting that sort of response, because people will definitely complain. People may be ambivalent, but to be that real promoter where I'm compelled to write to say that this was great, or I really enjoyed it, or the experience, this is when you know that it's working. Yeah. But you can never sit on your laurels with this stuff. You just have to keep,
I was just going to ask a follow-on question, because I think one of the areas now, of course, outsourcing in various forms is happening at great pace, isn't it? So third-party administrators and delegated and MGAs and globalization as well, because you're a global business now, of course, and you're a very big business, really. How do you kind of manage obviously you can't answer this in a minute, but how do you kind of generally think about managing the brand when it's being delivered by other people in this chain, sort of thing?
I don't know the answer in a minute. I think a lot of it is being clear. So having a real cultural framework that is simple and easy to remember, and that you can hold people to account. I've worked in businesses before where you have 7 values, then you have the vectors of success, and then you have the strategic statement. You're like, our goals and all that sort of stuff. And you just think, do you know what? How on earth is any one individual going to live up and deliver all of this? So ultimately, you just do the best you can. I think the important thing is making sure you start at the very beginning, which is the recruitment process. So you're very clear about what your strategy is around. If you've got, any, DEI strategies there, if you've got specific things going, you're very clear about delivering against all of that at the front end. You're looking for behaviors, importantly as well, that you're clear about what your values are, and then you use those throughout the year or the 5, every year you're checking that the team, that your leadership, that people are living up to those values. You're actually talking about those things and using it. And that's a responsibility of leadership, but also passing it down as a norm of behavior. So that's what we expect from you. And we use it to drive that culture and keep us all connected.
Yeah.
So that I think that's the best way you can do it. But it's constantly, it's an active thing that you have to do.
Yeah. And I think if you look at the London market, which is a great kind of bit of a bubble, I suppose, as well. But it's a really good kind of sort of petri dish or jar, a case study of how you look at a whole market. Petri dish is
not meaning to, but yes.
Yeah. But you can look at it. So we could look at how brands have shifted and changed over the years. And I think a huge amount of that has come from the top, from the leadership. You could name the leaders. You can name Stephen Catlin, Andrew Beazley, Nick Furlong. You can see where they made their mark. Robert Hiscox and so on. So all of these people have kind of left a legacy, I think, haven't they, in the business? And I think that's very true of Beazley, but you've kept the marketing going in Beazley. You've never gone dark, I think, over that period, have you?
I don't think so. I think we've just
I don't think there's a time when you went dark. So
I don't think so, no. I think it's always been front and centre, or a need for it. For clarity, I think of differentiation as well. I think it was something, I didn't ever have the good luck to meet Andrew Beazley, but I did have an opportunity. And Nick's very kind with his time. But he was always about, the principle was there has to be a better way. And it sits with me, that simplicity of phrase, which is determines a lot of the spirit and the approach, which is just because it is that way, I believe there has to be a better way. And I'm going to be perhaps dogmatic in it or relentless in it, but I will find the better way. And deliver it for everyone. It's not just for me, but for what it is that I do, and for everybody who is part of that. And I think that sort of holds quite true still in the organisation.
That word better in brand terms is very powerful, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're actually better. You can use it in a kind of aggressive, we're better 9 out of 10
But it's also achievable, isn't it? There has to be a better way, not the best way, just a better way than this. So then each time there has to be a better way. It feels also quite, everybody can be involved in that.
Yes, and I think people think that branding is fluffy or complicated, or whatever view they take. It's never the view of, I think, is very close to what branding really is, which is quite simple. It's distilling, isn't it, into kind of an essence of something, and saying, like Guinness, for example. Just brilliant, really.
Yeah.
And even if you don't like it or you do like it, you just know what it is straight away.
Exactly.
And that kind of essence. I was just wondering if you've, in the 5 years now, you could use a word or phrase that kind of sums Beazley up at this moment. Do you have that, or do you not think like that? Do you think it always evolves?
I think it always evolves. I think what sums it up is exciting.
I was going to say dynamic.
It feels, once you start there, it's how you feel. It's exciting.
Yeah.
That you go to work thinking it's exciting because of the people you talk to, the things you uncover, the conversations you have, it's exciting. But that for some people might feel a bit relentless. So it's about the right people being motivated by that sort of pace and forward thinking. Is different.
And I think that's true. And I think that, again, comes with what type of business are you, doesn't it? Amazon's a great brand. I don't know if I'd want to work there, but,
exactly.
And Chubb's a different brand too, and it's a different type of drive. But I think your point about exciting is important. I think it comes through in the research that the most successful brands, and that's, in terms of consideration, attracting talent, people want to work there, even if they don't know you that well, they go, it's going to be a really exciting, successful place to be.
There's a good energy, it's electrifying or exciting. It feels there's pace.
This has been brilliant. We
have to end at some point.
Surely. We have to end. We have to end. It's all evolving, but
Yeah.
no, it's stopped evolving
Okay,
for this
right. This is the
podcast.
moment.
But
Okay.
this has been fantastic. Just to finish, I wondered if you could say, given you wanted to be the Prime Minister, maybe not everybody wants to do that, but if what advice would you give to someone like a young marketer coming into insurance today, say specialty insurance? Good place to work or not?
Well, we joked about this question
Yes,
earlier,
we did
and I
joke
said,
about it.
Don't.
Now we'll give the serious podcast
but
answer.
Yeah, if people are really keen, I do think, what advice? I do think there is something about personally, be curious. I think that's one of the most important things. Listen a lot and learn. It's an incredible market. It does incredible things. And it is really exciting. So make sure you find out about it a little bit. So ask the questions. Don't just Google everything. It's a people business, as you said. So come in, make your mark by talking to people, being inquisitive, thinking how what we do attracts or attaches to the macroeconomic as well. Those things are exciting. Build your skill set, and then you'll be able to offer real value, because there's real opportunity, I think, in the marketing space within insurance. That it's at the beginning of a journey. It's definitely not Apple. So I think there's a lot we can do, and a lot as an industry we can do. We could be better storytellers. We can shift the perception around insurance. There is so much opportunity, but to be able to deliver that value, you have to be curious, and you have to be good at your craft, and you have to be willing to ask questions and learn a bit more and test yourself, I think.
Georgina, been a real pleasure. Fantastic. Get a bit of a glimpse, behind the curtain. It's a fantastic brand. I think you've picked up that excitement and taken it to another level, which is great. Got a great team. So yeah, I think you're just a brand that kind of inspires other brands, and and there's other brands that will inspire you as well. So, but I think it's fantastic for insurance. So I've really loved this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Loved it as well, I will say.
Yeah, great. Both loved it.
Yeah. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.